Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. I knew there was going to be trouble the moment they walked into the bar. Not the kind of trouble that puts people behind bars, but the kind that breaks hearts. A few months ago, I would have considered them friends. Even after things went bad, if they had kept quiet, everything could have been fine. But those in the know, I dumped them like garbage. I made it clear that they were no longer my friends. Of course, they tried to argue. They said they didn't want to pick sides, that they hoped Emily would realize it was destructive, that she still loved me, all that kind of crap. This makes no sense to me. I told them it would take a few meetings and some intense confrontations before they realized I was serious. To this day, if one of them tries to talk to me, I either turn away or just walk away. I think they finally got it. Those few friends I still hang out with get it, and make sure they don't bring her up. If they accidentally mention it, I simply apologize and leave. It's been 6 months. Divorce papers have been filed and statements have been made. I offered a 50-50th split, which is fair enough and almost done. Emily is fighting as hard as she can. We tried arbitration, but when neither of us would budge, they gave up. They mostly talked to her and tried to get her to understand that what she was getting was already a good deal. Then Emily offered to get marriage counseling. I refused, telling the judge it would be a complete waste of everyone's time and money because I would never settle. The judge, listening to an agitated, almost hysterical Emily, threatening to jail me for contempt of court, was shocked when I said, "Okay, just tell me when to turn myself in. Would you really rather go to jail than try to save your marriage?" The judge asked, looking at me incredulously. "Yes, Your Honor." I replied calmly, "If it makes you realize how firm my position is, I'd rather spend every weekend in jail than change my mind. There's nothing left for us to salvage. We don't have kids. We've had very few mutual friends since all this started. My business partner and his wife helped her carry on and hide the affair, so I cut ties with them as well. Divorce is just a small riffle in the ocean of life for me. Is that clear enough?" Emily seems to have finally realized my determination. After I made it clear that I was willing to be punished rather than receive counseling, she dropped the request. The drama finally ended, but so did our marriage. After the confrontation in court, I started looking for a new place to spend my time. I don't want to go back to those places we used to frequent that are filled with memories of the past. Eventually, I found a quiet little bar about 25 miles out of town. Marge, the owner of this bar, is a very interesting person. She's in her 40s and has been running the bar with her husband for 21 years. Marge is a savvy woman who seems to have seen it all. She has a special talent for making people speak from the heart without realizing it. I often sit at the bar and talk to Marge. Over time, I began to reveal my story to her. It's usually after I've had a few beers that the pieces of the story slowly surface. Marge always listens attentively, never judging or giving advice. This is exactly what I need. One night, after I told her more about Emily and me, Marge finally spoke her mind. "Jason," she said, "I've only heard your side of the story. While this may just be your imagination, I don't think so. You were probably right to leave, but maybe you should let Emily tell you her side of the story. I'm sure you're wondering how it all went bad. Listening to her may or may not help you. It may make you even angrier. But knowing the whole truth may help you better accept reality and move on." I appreciate Marge's honesty and understanding. She didn't try to convince me to forgive Emily or change my decision, just offer a different perspective on the situation. Just then, I noticed a couple familiar faces walk into the bar. Todd, Sandy, and George, and their wives. Emily's circle of friends. My heart sank, knowing trouble was coming. Marge noticed the change in my expression. "Friends?" she asked, nodding toward them. "Used to be," I replied, "not sure now. Do you need me to kick them out?" Marge asked, obviously sensing my discomfort. "No, let's see what they want." After a while, Todd worked up the courage to walk over. "Hey Jason, how's it going?" He tried to act casual. I replied coldly, "Very well." "Something wrong, Todd?" Todd looked a little perturbed, but continued, "Listen, man, We're all worried about you and Emily. She's in a lot of pain right now and feels very sorry for what happened. We all thought maybe you should talk and give the relationship a chance." I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "Todd, I've made myself clear. The marriage is over. Emily's choices, her actions, prove it. I don't need you guys to tell me what to do with my feelings." Sandy came over at that point, looking even more apologetic than Todd. "Jason, we're not here to start a fight. We just thought as friends we should try to help you guys out. But I've learned that it's not our place to get involved. I'm sorry to bother you." I look at Sandy and feel a twinge of gratitude. "Thank you for understanding, Sandy. I think we all need to move on." At that point, Tina, Todd's wife, interjected, "But Jason, you can't just give up. Emily really loves you. People make mistakes, but that doesn't mean the love is gone." I felt the anger start to rise. "Tina, y'all listen up. I don't need your sympathy or your advice. Emily betrayed me, and you all chose to remain silent. From now on, we are no longer friends. Please get out of my life." The room fell into silence. I saw the shock and hurt on their faces, but I didn't care. I've had enough of hypocrisy and betrayal. Finally, George spoke up. "We get it, Jason. We'll leave. I hope you find peace." I felt a wave of relief as I watched them leave. It can be brutal, but it's necessary. I need to cut all ties with the past to really start a new life. Marge came over and poured me a whiskey. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I nodded. "It'll be fine. This is just part of a new beginning." I raise my glass and toast to the future. Regardless of what awaits me ahead, I know I can finally begin to heal. I knew something was wrong that fateful night. I finished work early that day and decided to surprise Emily. I bought a bouquet of her favorite lilies and drove to the charity where she works. However, when I arrived at my destination, the front desk told me Emily was long gone. I was a little confused because Emily hadn't told me what I had planned for tonight. Just as I was about to leave, I suddenly remembered a new bar that Emily had been mentioning a lot lately. Maybe she went there with her coworkers to relax? Taking a chance, I drove to that bar. As I pushed open the door to the bar, the shocking scene froze me instantly in place. In the center of the dance floor, Emily is dancing enthusiastically with a strange man. The man's hands were on Emily's waist, and the two of them were so close that I felt suffocated. What's even more unacceptable to me is that during one of the musical interludes, Emily actually initiated a kiss on the man. I felt like my world fell apart in that moment. I couldn't believe my eyes that the wife who had sworn eternal fidelity to me was now smiling so happily in the arms of another man. I wanted to rush up and question Emily, but reason told me not to. I quietly exited the bar and sat in my car to calm myself. I pulled out my cell phone and dialed Emily's number. The call was quickly answered and Emily's voice sounded a little panicked. "Honey, what's wrong?" I pushed down my anger and said as calmly as I could, "I just got off work and wanted to ask where you were." Emily paused, then said, "Oh, I was with Sophie and the girls and we were talking about work." I felt my heart ripped out of my chest when I heard this obvious lie. I hung up and sat in my car for a long time. I thought back to Emily's unusual behavior over the past few months. Frequent overtime, mysterious phone calls, and an increasingly cold attitude toward me. All the clues point to one horrible truth. Emily betrayed me. For the next few days, I acted as if nothing had happened on the outside, but inside I was struggling fiercely. Should I question Emily directly? Or should I gather more evidence? After much deliberation, I decided to hire a private investigator to look into Emily's behavior. The PI's name is Johnny Walker, and he hates scotch. He said he should be called Jim or Jack because he's a bourbon lover. He came to a bar I recommended, and we met in a private booth. I even bought a disposable cell phone and locked it in my desk drawer just for contacting him. 2 weeks later, Johnny brought the findings. "It's all here," he said, handing me a small briefcase. Photos, videos, transcripts of interviews with friends and coworkers. It looks like some of them don't even know she's married. Apparently, she doesn't wear her wedding ring at work. They are not particularly careful. I'm sorry. I took the briefcase, feeling as if its weight could crush me. Johnny warned me not to do anything stupid and advised me to handle it calmly and not to take any extreme action. I assured him I wouldn't hurt Emily or the man, at least not physically. I don't hide money, make ridiculous demands, or play any games. And I wouldn't fight to keep her. I should never be in a position where I have to fight for her. Through her behavior, she has broken the marriage. I'm just gonna walk away. Does that make me a coward? I asked. Johnny shook his head. No, it makes you a person of good judgment, someone who stays calm and rational under pressure. In this case, it's very rare. As I was getting ready to leave, Johnny gave me some advice. I wouldn't look at those DVDs or photos if I were you. It won't help your case. It will just burn a memory into your mind that will take years to erase. The same goes for reports. You already know everything you need to know. But read the contents of the red envelope. It contains some interesting information about what your friends know about her affair. I thanked Johnny for his advice and help and left the bar with a heavy heart and that briefcase full of truth. I knew that from this moment on, my life would change forever. I went back to my office, took the red envelope out of my briefcase, and locked the bag at the bottom of the filing cabinet. I followed Johnny's advice and decided not to look at the rest of the evidence for now. I opened the envelope and began to read the contents. Each page made my heart sink deeper and anger burned in my chest. It turns out that many of our friends, even my closest partner Alex and his wife Emma, knew about Emily's cheating behavior. Not only did they remain silent, they helped her cover up the truth by providing her with an alibi. I feel completely betrayed, not just by Emily, but by those I once trusted. I sat there, staring at Emily's picture on the table, feeling a pang of heartache. The woman I once loved is now a stranger. How do I face this harsh reality? Should I choose to forgive or end the marriage altogether? Just then, there was a soft knock on the office door. I looked up and saw Emily standing in the doorway with an apologetic look on her face. "Can we talk?" she said softly. I took a deep breath and nodded. I knew that the decisive moment had finally arrived. Emily walked into the office and carefully closed the door. She looked haggard. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she had obviously been crying. She sat in the chair across from me, her hands twisted together nervously. "Jason, I know I've made a terrible mistake," she began, her voice trembling, "and I can't tell you how much I regret it. I love you. I really love you. It was just, I don't know, a moment of weakness. I promise that's over. Can we start over?" I listened in silence, feeling the pain and anger inside. When she finished, I spoke slowly. "Emily, you say you love me, but love isn't supposed to be like that. Love means loyalty. It means respect. You betrayed my trust, and not only that, you got our friends involved to help you cover up the truth." Emily's eyes started to tear up. "I know. I'm so stupid. But Jason, we've been together for so many years. Aren't all those years of affection worth trying again?" I shook my head, feeling a wave of exhaustion. "Emily, the question isn't whether or not all those years of affection were worth it. The problem is, I can't trust you anymore. Every time you come home late, every time you get a phone call, I get suspicious. This is not what a healthy relationship should look like. But we can rebuild trust," Emily said eagerly. "I can change. I can prove it to you." I stood up, walked over to the window and looked out at the city. "Emily, don't you get it? Trust, once broken, is like a shattered mirror. Even if you put the pieces together, the cracks will always be there. I don't want to live in a world of doubt and uncertainty." I turned around and looked her straight in the eye. "I've made up my mind, Emily. I want a divorce." This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision, but a well-thought-out one. "Our marriage is over." Emily broke down. She fell to her knees and grabbed my hand. "Please, Jason, give me a chance. I can change, I promise." I gently pulled my hand out. "I'm sorry, Emily, but that's final. I have contacted an attorney and they will handle the matter. I hope we can end this peacefully." Emily whimpers, but I stay firm. "I know it's brutally loyal, but it's necessary. I need to think about my future. I need to heal my wounds." I felt a strange sense of relief when Emily finally left the office. Yes, I still love her, but sometimes love is not enough. Sometimes we have to learn to let go for the sake of our dignity and happiness. I picked up the phone and dialed Paul Whitfield's number. It's time to officially start the divorce process. No matter what awaits me ahead, I know this is just the beginning of a new life. The pain will eventually pass, and I will be stronger and wiser. And Emily and those so-called friends will be a distant memory in my life. Paul Whitfield's office is housed in a venerable building with old ceiling fans hanging from high ceilings and exquisite wooden decor that gives the impression of former glory. Paul saw me surveying my surroundings and grinned. "We own the building." I insisted on keeping the ceiling fans. They add so much character to the place. I immediately liked Paul. He was gentle but direct, and his professional demeanor put me at ease as we discussed the details of our divorce. By the time we were done talking, I already had a divorce attorney, someone I felt I could trust. "I could have settled the matter on more favorable terms," Paul said, "but it would have been easier for everyone if she hadn't resisted." "Do you think she'll resist?" I sighed. "Honestly, I'm not sure I understand her anymore. I recently realized I've been living a lie." Paul nodded in understanding. "Well, let's be prepared for her to fight back. You mentioned the private investigator's report, and that will be very helpful." We discussed several possible scenarios, and then Paul asked, "When do you want to file the paperwork?" I thought for a moment. "Can it be done by Saturday night?" Paul raised an eyebrow. "This isn't going to turn into some stupid act of revenge, is it? The courts are closed on weekends, and we are unable to file on Saturdays. Also, serving papers at home may cause unnecessary dramatic scenes. I suggest we deal with this on Monday. This is professional and avoids possible emotional conflict. What do you think?" After Paul's explanation, I realized that his suggestion made more sense. I nodded in agreement. "You're right, Paul. Monday, then." "Would serving papers in her office interfere with her work?" Paul nodded appreciatively. "Smart thinking. If she is fired, this could affect the financial arrangements for the divorce. Let's just arrange for it to be delivered after her shift." "What time does she usually get home?" "About 7 p.m. Then it's settled. I'll call you before I serve the papers in case you change your mind." Over the next few days, I began to execute my plan. In the private investigator's report, I found out that Emily's affair took place in the workplace. Her colleague Greg, a man who works as a senior project manager for a charity, is the subject of her affair. I recalled that Emily had mentioned this Greg as an attractive, mature man. In hindsight, the gleam in her eyes then should have alerted me long ago. Greg is a few years older than Emily and is married, but his wife is serving overseas. I had seen him a couple times at company parties and always thought there was something wrong with the way he looked at Emily. Now that I think about it, that look was clearly one of naked desire. One of the recordings the PI gave me was a conversation between Emily and Greg in his office. I forced myself to listen to the whole thing, each word stabbing into my heart like a knife. "Jesus, Greg," Emily whispered. "We can't be here. If someone comes in..." Greg's low chuckle came. "Don't worry, baby. The door is locked. Now, let's see which panties you're wearing today." The sound of clothing rubbing together was next, followed by Emily's suppressed moan. "Greg, you're wonderful. Jason has never made me feel so good." I turned off the recording and felt a wave of nausea. Emily's words echoed in my head like poison. I used to think we had a harmonious sex life. Now it seems that was another one of her lies too. I contacted Emily's employer and requested a meeting with the board members. I didn't explicitly say I was going to sue them, but my tone implied that I had some information that could damage the company's reputation. It was enough to make them nervous. In the conference room, I calmly played the recording of Emily and Greg's conversation. I felt a thrill of revenge as I watched the looks of shock and embarrassment on the faces of the suits. "That's just the tip of the iceberg," I said coldly. "I have more evidence of how they misuse the company's resources and time to carry out these misdeeds." Then I made my conditions. First, Emily must never know about this meeting. Secondly, you can reprimand her, demote her, do what you want, but don't fire her. I need her to have a job during the divorce. As for Greg, I personally think he's a ticking time bomb, but that's your decision. Third, you have a volunteer named Cindy Waller who helped my wife with her affair and covered for her. It would be best if she no longer had anything to do with your organization. The board members kept nodding their heads like toys that had stepped on an organ. I know they're afraid the scandal will affect their fundraising ability and public reputation. Of course, we can't write this down, I added. But I taped this conversation. If I get in trouble, you guys can play the recording. By the way, I have another recording device recording in case you want to play tricks. Emily did get demoted and received a stern warning, but she kept her job. Greg, on the other hand, was asked to resign and the company did not give him any references. I don't know where he ended up, but he called Emily to say goodbye. They fired me, Greg said, to put it mildly, but I'm unemployed now and have no references. I guess this is goodbye. Emily seemed sympathetic. I'm so sorry, Greg, but we brought this on ourselves. At least you're not married, unlike me, who ruined a good marriage. Greg was silent for a moment, then said, Actually, Emily, I'm married. My wife is in the service, in a not-so-good place. She rotates back in 3 months. You asshole. Emily screamed. How could you do this to her? At least Jason's home and not in danger. I agree, you're an asshole, but I'm no better. You won't tell her, will you? No, I have no way of contacting her. Even if she could, she shouldn't have to endure this. Love her and cherish her when she comes back. Don't make the same mistake again. I'm sorry things turned out this way. I hope you can get him back. You're an amazing woman, Emily. Bye. Emily cried on the other end of the phone for a while before hanging up. I thought about contacting Greg's wife, but in the end I didn't. She might need to know the truth, but if Greg was telling the truth, she'd find out sooner or later. My plan for revenge is going well. Instead of taking any extreme action, I opted for a more subtle but equally effective approach. I completely neglected Emily and Greg and put them under chronic mental stress. Every time they hear a rattle around the corner or a noise behind them, they tense up in anticipation of seeing me. Eventually, they'll realize that I have no interest in them, and that's probably the biggest insult I can give. I decided that from now on, I would focus on my own healing and growth. Emily and Greg and the friends who betrayed me will be in the past. My future belongs to me, and I'm going to live it well, and that will be my best revenge. As I lay in bed, reflecting on it all, I felt a wave of relief. Even though Emily's betrayal caused me great pain, I know I made the right decision. I am no longer the cheated husband, but a man ready to start a new life. Tomorrow, when the divorce papers are served, I will officially end this nightmare and embrace a brand new future. Monday morning, I woke up feeling like there was a fire burning in my stomach. Today was the day the divorce papers were served. As I showered, I thought back to the times Emily and I had spent together in this shower. Those intimate memories only make me sick now. I put on my suit and drove to the office. On the way, I got a call from Paul. Jason, everything is ready. Do you still insist on doing this? Yes, Paul. The time has come to end this. I hung up the phone and felt a stone fall from my heart. When I got to the office, I found myself unable to concentrate on my work. At lunchtime, my business partner Alex walked in with an apologetic look on his face. Jason, can we talk? I looked at him coldly. What's there to talk about, Alex? You helped Emily cover up her affair, and you expect us to remain friends? Alex blushed. Look, I know I made a big mistake, but Jason, you've been together for so many years. Can't we just forgive her? I stood up, feeling angry. Forgive her? Alex, do you know how I felt when I found out she was cheating on me? Let me tell you. I took a deep breath and began to describe the night. I saw Emily and Greg in the center of the dance floor. Greg's hands were on her ass and Emily, my wife, was exploring Greg's throat with her tongue. Do you know what that feels like? It's like someone stabbed me in the chest with a red-hot iron bar. Alex paled, but I continued. Later, I heard their recordings. Emily said to Greg, "You're amazing. Jason has never made me feel so good. Do you think I can ever forgive that?" Alex lowered his head. I didn't know things were this bad. Jason, I'm really sorry. I shook my head. It's too late, Alex. Our friendship and business relationship ends here. I'll contact an attorney to handle the company's affairs. Now, please leave my office. Alex left silently. I sat back in my chair, feeling exhausted. At 6 p.m., I received a text from Paul confirming that the divorce papers had been served. I imagined the look on Emily's face when she received the papers, and a strange sense of satisfaction came over me. I decided to go to the bar for a drink. Sitting at the bar, I thought back to our wedding vows. In good times and bad, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, I will love and cherish you until death do us part. How ironic that our marriage was ended not by death, but by betrayal. Just as I was about to ask for a second whiskey, my cell phone rang. "It's Emily." I hesitated, but answered the phone. "Jason," she said with a sob in her voice, "I just got the divorce papers. Please, can we talk?" I took a deep breath. "Emily, there's nothing left to talk about." "But Jason," she said eagerly, "we used to love each other so much. Remember that weekend we spent in Paris? We kissed under the Eiffel Tower, and you said you'd never let go of my hand." I closed my eyes and those wonderful memories came flooding back like a tidal wave. But immediately afterward, I remembered the recording of Emily and Greg in the office. "That's all in the past, Emily. You betrayed me. You betrayed our vows. Now, please respect my decision. Bye." I hung up and felt a wave of relief. Yes, we were in love, but that love has been completely destroyed by Emily's betrayal. I asked for another whiskey, this time to celebrate my new life. While the future is uncertain, I know that starting today, I can finally truly move on. As I walked out of the bar, the stars looked extra bright in the night sky. I took a deep breath and felt the flavor of freedom. Emily, Greg, and those so-called friends will be a thing of the past. And I, for one, will be welcoming a brand new life. This is my revenge, to live a better version of myself. I know that it will be a long and difficult process, but I am ready for it. Because sometimes love isn't about forgiveness, it's about knowing when to let go. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.